Good evening, welcome to Newsnight. We're live from our studios at Northridge in Accra. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Let's take a look at our top stories. The Lands Commission says it has no record in its archives of Sir John owing plots of land at the Achimota Forest Reserve. National security begins anti-terrorism campaign as courts in the eastern region limit entry to chambers. Coming up in business, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has announced an increase in monetary policy rate by 100 basis points to 19%. And later on the international front, the outgoing president of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, hands over power to newly elected President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud. Details of these and many other stories are coming up shortly. Stay with us. Welcome to the program. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources says land documents, including that of the Achimota Forest Reserve, are all intact after floods destroyed computers and documents at the Lands Commission's office here in Accra. The Deputy Lands Minister, Benito Owusu-Bio, debunked rumors the incident was a ploy to destroy evidence at the office.
We came here because water.
I know.
Yes, but be fair, please, be fair. Oh, is that the only document? What about your father's document here?
Well, that's what we are finding.
Yes, that is why. It shouldn't be only Achimota. We are saying all documents of Lands Commission is intact, including everything.
Not only Achimota.
Everything is intact. This was an act of God. Nothing here can be linked to Achimota Forest or whatever forest. But then all files and documents are intact. They've been saved. Every document here too, there's a soft copy of it, and as such, should in case anything of that even happens, we can assure everyone that we can reprint the replacement documents so that they can be used. So Ghanaians should know that all their documents in terms of land title, property transactions and all that is safe.
Meanwhile, the Lands Commission says it has no records in its archives of Kojo Owusu Efriye, popularly known as Sir John, owing plots of land in the Achimota Forest Reserve. This comes after Sir John willed portions of the forest to his family.
That is furnished to the Lands Commission as far as registration of land. When it comes, we will update our records. But for now, what the minister said is what the situation is. We don't have.
Regarding the Achimota Forest?
No. You know, we have the original acquisition and then the new EI that the minister talked about. It has to go through a certain process before it comes here for us to record it. So it is not here yet. So we have the original acquisition in our record. So as far as the Lands Commission is concerned, we don't have records as in allocations to people and registration and all of that. We're going through our records. There were some under the old system, and we are doing records information right now, and we are putting dates to all the transactions that have taken place. I am sure by tomorrow we'll have it all assembled, what we have as far as the past activities in our records is concerned regarding the acquisition and all of that. What you have read is what I have also read. There's nothing in our records regarding that one. Thank you very much.
Just put that on record for me, if that is what is actually the facts of the matter.
Oh, that is exactly the situation. What you read is what I read. We don't have anything recorded here for Sir John as far as our records go.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Still on this matter, private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi says the alleged will of Sir John circulating in the public domain is authentic. According to him, the format of what has been circulated in the media has all the tenets of a true will.
The Achimota Forest Reserve has been in the news in the past week due to the EI that popped up seeking to reclassify parts of the reserve for commercial and residential purposes. Not long after, a new document has popped up alleging that the late former Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie, popularly called Sir John, had included portions of the Achimota Forest in his will. The will, which has been cited and confirmed by the Fourth Estate, contains 4 parcels of specified and unspecified acres of land in the Achimota Forest, which the late politician bequeathed to named persons in his family. Legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi, after having a look at the supposed will, says the document has all tenets of a true will.
From what is out there, particularly what your colleague Manasseh has been posting, it appears on the face of it. It appears to be a will, properly filed. But of course, the portions of execution are not detailed out, so you're unable to see whether indeed it is the will of the person intended or for the subject of these discussions,
right?
I.e. Sir John,
okay.
Because we do not know, we haven't seen his signatures and we haven't seen the witnesses. But on the face of what we have, it follows the format of a will, and if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, we can safely say that it's a duck.
This document has also generated another wave of unpopular social media messages against the New Patriotic Party government. Meanwhile, spokesperson for environmental NGO against the sale of Achimota Forest, Obed Owusu Adai, says the cited will of Sir John is disheartening and discouraging.
It's very, very, very disheartening, especially under the background that in a few days we are going to plant trees, over 20 million trees across the country. And just a few weeks before that, you hear that some of the greenery, which is, these are already trees that are standing, and we are giving them out to party cronies and friends to just go and mow it down.
The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources has, since the release of the will, requested for all documents relating to the lands in question as part of an initial inquiry to ascertain the veracity of the claims.
So the debate about asset declaration is in the news again thanks to this particular story. Now, we'll be speaking with an expert, but before that, let's look at what the law says about public officers declaring their assets. And Ghana's Assets Declaration Act 1998, Section 1, Declaration of Assets and Liabilities by Public Office Holders. 1 says a person who holds a public office mentioned in Section 3 of this Act shall submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of A, all properties or assets owned by him, and B, all liabilities owed by him, whether directly or indirectly. 2, the declaration shall be made on the form provided in Schedule 2 to this Act. Three, it shall be the responsibility of the officers required to make the declaration under this Act to obtain the forms from the Office of the Auditor General. 4, the declaration shall be made by the public officer A before taking office, B at the end of every 4 years. And it says at the end of the term of his office, and shall in any event be submitted not later than 6 months of the occurrence of the events specified in this subsection. Right, so let's speak with an expert on the back of this. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the show. Now, the issue about asset declaration is in the news again. Do you think it has to be re-looked at?
Oh, very much so, my friend. Very much so. This issue has been raised over the past several years, especially when I was at CBD. was one of the issues that we normally raised when it came to public corruption and all those issues. The thing is that this act that you just showed on the screen is very nebulous at best. Because you see, as you said, you are required to declare the assets, but then nobody verifies whether what you have declared is in fact true. That's the first downside of the act. Then also, at the end of your tenure, nobody goes to the field to verify whether additional assets have been acquired and the value of it, so that the Auditor General can make a reasonable assessment as to whether what you have acquired, in addition to what you declared, were acquired legitimately. So there is a serious downside to the Asset Declaration Act. But having said that, unfortunately, we haven't had any leader with the courage yet to seriously even see to the implementation of this act. Because when they are supposed to have filed their assets with the Auditor General, that ends the issue. Nobody goes back to check. So in a way, it's a hollow act. It's not effective.
Right.
So if you are serious about combating corruption, then this whole act must be seriously reviewed and strengthened.
Right. One will say, even if it is re-looked at, what difference will it make? Assuming somebody is coming to office, he or she declares that he has these items, and later he comes to declare that he has another item, nothing can be done to the person.
Precisely. Precisely. The law does not provide for sanctions or anything of the sort. So it's the merely asking people. I think those who concocted this act were very clever. And as you know, those who write these acts are lawyers and politicians guided by politicians. So very craftily, they have put an act in place as if that is going to fight corruption. And it does not. Because as I said earlier, even if you go there to declare that you have 10 houses prior to assuming the office, who goes to the field to verify that indeed you have these 10 houses? So you can have one and declare 10. By the time you're out of office, you have 10. That will fulfill, what you have intended to do. So the whole issue of asset declaration is one of the biggest jokes in our current anti-corruption effort. So if the president or the government is serious about it, I think we have to quickly find a way to strengthen this particular act, which has the intention of checking corruption by public officials. But
right.
As it is completely ineffective.
Right. Do you think if this act was in full force, the public would have been outraged by the number of properties that we've seen in the will of the late Sir John circulating on social media?
Well, not just only Sir John. The fact is that there are so many things going on in this country. Sir John's case has come out. I don't know who else's case will come out. But we know those who entered politics who had nothing behind them. And today, these are very wealthy people, both young and old people in politics. So these things are there. So what we say is that if we are serious about checking these abuses by public officers, let's have a better law and enforcement of the law and leadership that will see to it that when there's a breach of the law,
right,
the right things will be done.
Right. Thank you for your expert analysis. Let's now seek some legal analysis on this particular issue. And I've been joined by private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi to tell us about what the law says about asset declaration. Justice, welcome once again to the show. Educate us on asset declaration and the connection it has with this new development. Can you kindly unmute your microphone?
My respected prof has done a better analysis than I could possibly add to. As we all know, Prof is very astute in his understanding and appreciation of the subject area. And so once he has said so much, I'll probably just add that upon assumption of office, everyone, particularly Article 71 public holders are required to declare their assets. And of course, we have had a series of legal banter with these asset declaration issues because of the limited nature of it. it doesn't appear to be that biting, particularly when persons who are required to file do not file on time or do not file even in accordance with the rules as required. And so I think we have serious challenges, and most of which Prof has already alluded to. Right. But having said that, I do not think we really need a new law. We just need to enforce the asset declaration laws as it exists today. And possibly, I believe we will get the best out of it.
Right. Talking about enforcement, well, I will say, even if it's enforced, what difference will it make?
For a lot of things. First of all, once we enforce it, and the issue of publicity, I think that one has been dealt with now. Now, once you publish, we are allowed to have, by virtue of the new Act, Right to Information Act, even if the Auditor Generals do not publish them, we can have access to it if we apply for it. So now they are more or less public documented. So having access to it may not be necessarily difficult. However, the issue really is the auditing, the post and the post assumption of office, and then post departure from office. Right. Those are, so the entry and the exit are the issues that we need to audit to determine how public office holders, the amount, the quantity of, the value of assets that they lawfully or unlawfully acquired at the time that they were in office, so that we will be able to determine whether or not there has been any form of misappropriation or mismanagement or maybe stealing or any other word close to that. And I think all of that go into the issue of enforcement. Right. Until we have a better enforcement regime, we may not be able to have the best out of the law. If you remember, there was a period of time that ASEPA and other civil society organizations had to petition the petition strat for some public office holders to declare the assets, because for more than 6 months after assumption of office, they have not declared it. Right. This should not be the order of the day. This should rather be the opposite. Right. But unfortunately, for us, this has been the norm.
Justice Abdullahi, thank you very much for speaking to us this evening. Now, Ghanaians are worried about this particular issue. They have expressed their outrage on social media. Let's look at some of them. And this one from Nungwa Bena says, after reading Sir John's will, I can confidently say the easiest way to become a billionaire in Ghana is being a politician. And this one says, Sir John Punie, not Ken Ofuriata. We voted for our death. And this one from K Poison 1 says, have to show my dad Sir John's will and tell him to see his mates. And this is from Albert Nat Hyde, and it says, if you read Sir John's will carefully, you will realize politics is the most lucrative profession in Africa, an easy way to amass wealth at the expense of the citizenry and not account for it. In any serious country, Sir John's will should be investigated. It's so unreal. Let's go back to social media once again to see reactions that were made after the flooding last Saturday. And this is from George, and it says, this one, dear, it be opportunity for them to change so many property right documents and then blame the flood that they can't trace or find the documents in their archives. This one from Prosper Okanse says, in this era, there should be an online cloud to store all documents for future reference. This looks like a clear setup. And this from Mustafa Dazi says, Lands Commission head office also a victim of floods with a question mark, how? Implying the head office is situated in a waterway, flood-prone area, or simply a victim of circumstances resulting from poor waste management. Those were some comments from social media. Let's bring you other stories as the overlord of Achim Ebuakwa, Ochehene Amotia Ofuripenyi, is demanding an end to the continuous destruction of Ghana's forest reserves. This report follows that The Achimota Forest Reserve has been declassified and sold. The chief says a distraction of the forest will render government's much-touted Green Ghana project meaningless. The media space has for the past week been littered with news of the declassification and sale of the Achimota Forest Reserve. The Lands and Natural Resources Ministry debunked the report, claiming it was only declassified for a portion to be handed over to the Owu family.
For the avoidance of doubt, President Akufo-Addo nor myself intends to sell or redevelop the Achimota Forest as currently constituted. On the contrary, we intend to enrich the Achimota Forest.
The dreaded sale of the forest reserve was confirmed after documents surfaced on social media alleged the late former Forestry Commission Chief Executive Kojo Owusu-Afriyie, popularly known as Sir John, included portions of the Achimota forest lands in his will. The ministry has since said it will probe the document and furnish Ghanaians with the details. As part of efforts to improve afforestation, government's Green Ghana project this year seeks to plant 20 million trees. But Ochehene Amotia Ofori-Penyin says the tree planting project will be futile if government doesn't protect existing forest reserves.
We are united by ecological systems. I don't care where you are. One tree, one plant that you destroy affects somebody somewhere else. So it is a responsibility that we need to hold to replant. So if the government of the day has seen that we need to make that investment in planting trees and restoring our forests and making our topsoil better, then we ought to have supervision to stop this galamsey that destroys the land that we are trying to rebuild or the forest that we are trying to restore.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission during a visit to the Ofori-Penyin Fie said the Eastern region alone is expected to plant 2.5 million trees from a previous 500,000, urging the traditional rulers to embrace the project.
2022, the target for Eastern region is 2.5 million from 500,000. That means that we have to do much more than last year. So we are here today to inform Osagyefo that the day for planting is June 10, and then we would seek his strong, influential voice to be able to get the people of the Eastern region and then particularly the Kebbi state to come out on that day to plant the seedlings.
This year's Green Ghana project is scheduled for June 10, 2022. Government intends to launch an anti-terrorism hotline tomorrow. We'll tell you more after the break. You're welcome back. Security consultant Richard Kumado is urging state security to distinguish between terrorists and those who take advantage of economic downturns to wreak havoc. He was speaking on the back of National Security's launch of a campaign to raise awareness on terror.
As the country strives toward of extremist threats inside the sub-region, the government will launch an anti-terrorism campaign on Tuesday, May 24, 2022, with the announcement of a toll-free hotline 999 for the public to report suspicious activities within their areas. Those who don't want to be identified for fear of being labeled as snitchers. The complaints can be lodged anonymously too. The security agencies have announced. Speaking on the back of it, security consultant Richard Kumado has advised on the need to distinguish between true terrorism and fake terrorism.
This whole issue about terrorism, we need to differentiate the threat of terrorism from saboteurs who want to take advantage of economic situations and the insecurity in our nation, and to cause a sabotage. And these guys could be influenced by so many things. Some could be external factors, some could be people outside the country who are influencing their behavior, so that we don't jungle the two, because terrorism is a very serious issue and saboteuring is another serious issue.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, is asking Ghanaians to be cautious of security threats and has called on citizens to support the cause of averting such attacks.
We are therefore at this point specifically drawing the attention of persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction to be more observant and vigilant about our security ecosystem, and to draw the attention of the police, other security agencies, and local community leaders immediately they observe anything out of the ordinary.
Now, Pargrave Boakye Dankwa is government spokesperson on governance and security, and he joins me for a brief conversation on this initiative. Pargrave, always good to see you.
It's always a joy to be here. A very good evening to you and to your viewers.
Tell us about this initiative that is happening tomorrow.
And so tomorrow, the National Security, in conjunction with the Ministry of Information, is launching the Citizen Education Campaign, which really is supposed to focus on educating a lot more on our awareness of our security. And I would like to put across that the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, is going to grace the occasion. The Minister for Information, the Honorable Kojo Nkrumah, is going to be there. The Minister himself for National Security, Honorable Ken Dapai, is going to be there. The tag really is for you to see something and say something as a hashtag. And the goal in terms of the National Security Framework is for us to be able to begin to prevent, and then to preempt, and then to protect, and then to respond. Right. So we are working with these 4 cardinal points as a counter-terrorism unit.
Right, and what measures are being put in place to ensure that this campaign gets to the doorstep of every Ghanaian?
Well, so a large number of measures are being put in place. We've already met with the religious bodies, and then also on Sunday, there was a major press conference at the Ministry of Information. Tomorrow is a second stage as well, to ensure that we have a holistic approach where the entire Ghanaian people are aware of their environment and their surroundings. There's going to be a toll-free number, 999, that is going to be outdoored tomorrow, as well activating all social media handles of the Ghana Police Service, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all the other handles that are available for you to just see something and say something within your environment. If you find something unusual, if you find a vehicle that is parked for a longer period of time, a bag that has been left, a phone that is loitering around, someone that is walking around your community or your neighborhood, your child has gone to school and has come back and there's something in the bag, you're just really just being consciously aware, and you're informing the police about it. You do not even need to disclose your identity when you call the toll-free number. Right. You just need to be able to inform the police about it.
Have you considered the issue of prank calls? Because other emergency services like the ambulance and the Ghana Police Service have all complained about prank calls. Have you factored that issue in this particular initiative?
Well, I think that clearly around the world, every now and then, you would always have people wanting to test the system. So I know that people place prank calls, but our system is quite robust to be able to identify prank calls, because we have deployed high-level intelligence across the various hotspots within the country, and also high-level intelligence, military, police personnel mounting barricades every now and then. There is a security talkie phone that we use every now and then within the security environment. So anytime you place a prank call, you would always have someone declining that this is not appropriate. But every now and then when you place a real demand, you will really see someone coming to your attention.
A person who lives in a remote area and wants to call and doesn't have service, what does he or she do?
And so a person who lives in the area and wants to call and hasn't got service, because this is in consultation and in conjunction with the Ministry of Information, the ISD, which is the Information Service Department, is going to go into the local districts and assemblies to communicate it in the languages that they can understand, all Ghanaian languages that they can understand, in terms of jingles, in terms of flyers, in terms of bulletin, all languages that they're going to have various conversations around that. The police as well are being informed as well, is in conjunction with the police services or the military services, security services, and so you'll find your police people coming into your community to contextualize the issues to you. You would also as well find your district assembly member, you'll find assembly member as well coming to have conversations with you.
Right. I'll come back to you, but let's take an issue concerning the court, as courts in the Eastern region have been directed to allow only lawyers and a few people in the courtroom due to the incident and fear of terrorist attacks.
The number of terrorist attacks in neighboring countries has prompted immediate move by the national security to avert these attacks. Institutions and organizations have also taken steps to protect citizens. Courts in the Eastern region have been directed by the Chief Registrar Seydou Yusuf to allow only designated persons into the chamber. The directive says only court staff, security agencies, lawyers and their clients, together with their witnesses, should be allowed entry. The directive also includes thorough inspections of luggage, vehicles and other belongings of persons who patronize the court. The national security has cautioned the public on the lookout for suspicious persons and institutions, especially churches, which have been encouraged to improve security.
Hargrave, can you briefly address this? A good move, you'd say?
Absolutely. I believe very well that a lot of our undertone and background work is being activated very clearly. And the goal is to ensure that you know who is within your environment. And we commend the various services that we are working with and taking all of these recommendations to bear. And I believe that it's just really for the season. And once we are out of the woods, we'll be able to restore all of those other measures that were already existing in the courtroom.
Grateful for your time tonight. Let's bring in more stories as Ghana's relationship with Mozambique has been further deepened following the election and the coming to Ghana of their president.
This is the first time a sitting Mozambican president is visiting Ghana. President Akufo-Addo calls it historic. His counterpart from East Africa is on a 4-day visit to the country to deepen existing relations with Ghana. At the Jubilee House, the pair held bilateral talks ahead of the signing of 2 agreements, the General Cooperation Agreement between Ghana and Mozambique, as well as that of waiver on visa requirements.
Our visit here, and would like to strengthen and give impetus to this excellent result and cooperations for concrete actions. And we are very much satisfied with the meeting that we've just had. Very short meetings, but with solutions. This very small yet important moment to exchange information on our political, social situation of both countries.
President Akufo-Addo said the visit was mutually beneficial.
Ladies and gentlemen, this visit by His Excellency is taking place at a time when the world is dealing with the ravages of COVID-19 and the effects of rising tensions across the globe, as seen in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as well as confronting the threats posed by terrorism and violent extremism. Every country on this earth, including our own, is bearing the brunt of these developments. We're learning valuable lessons from them, and that is to develop the necessary infrastructure and resilient systems to mitigate any such devastating impacts in future.
The Mozambican president later visited the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, where he paid homage to Ghana's first president. He will, in the coming days, visit Ghana's parliament to address the Legislative House.
Stay tuned because we have more stories for you after the break. And in business tonight, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has announced an increase in monetary policy rate by 100 basis points to 19%. This means the Bank of Ghana will be lending to commercial banks at 19%. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, explains.
At the 105th Monetary Policy Committee meeting in March this year, the policy rate was adjusted upwards to 17%. This, according to the Bank of Ghana, was due to global economic challenges and rising inflation, which was affecting the economy. Barely 2 months down the lane, rising inflation keeps weighing the country down, by which has influenced the committee's decision to further increase the policy rate by another 200 basis points to 19%. This was announced by the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, at the 106th Monetary Policy Press Briefing.
With a strong rebound in growth and the closing of the negative output gap, the balance of risk is clearly on inflation. The MPC took the view that it needed to decisively address the current inflationary pressures to re-anchor expectations and help foster macroeconomic stability. On the basis of the above assessment, the committee decided to raise the policy rate by 200 basis points to 19%.
Dr. Ernest Addison also predicted continuous inflation hikes till 2023.
If you look at our inflation forecast profile, we expect that inflation would get back into our target zone sometime in 2023. It means that you would still see heightened inflation rates between now and then. The pressures would probably only fade out gradually. And it is a difficult time for all of us. Inflation is a canker and it affects the poorest most.
Meanwhile, in the foreign exchange market, the Ghana cedi has depreciated by 15.6% against the US dollar, 13.1% against the pound sterling, and 13.6% against the euro in the first quarter of 2022.
And President Akufo-Addo has called on fellow African leaders yet to ratify the agreement that established the African Continental Free Trade Area to demonstrate the political will and sign up. As part of his visit to the country, President of Mozambique was given a tour of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. The Trade Pact is expected to connect 1.3 billion people across the continent and aims to create a single market for goods and services. On Monday, Secretary General Wamkele Meni outlined progress made so far.
Much of the work that we were charged with by the Assembly of Heads of States and Government in Phase 1 of implementation of the agreement is nearing conclusion. I am encouraged that in over 88% of rules of origin, we have reached agreement, and over 28 services sectors or services offers are almost in a state of implementation. This places the continent on very strong grounds for commercially meaningful trading as soon as possible. Similarly, we've made progress in Phase 2 of the negotiations. We are proceeding in the area of investment, competition policy, digital trade, intellectual property rights, and of course, and more importantly, the protocol on women and youth in trade.
He said funds are being mobilized to support trading activities under the AfTA.
In order to achieve these results, which we all desire, the AfCFTA Secretariat has already mobilized resources to ensure smooth implementation of these value chains. For example, for countries who wish to advance in the automotive sector, we have mobilized $1 billion, which is available immediately for those countries that will seek to trade under the AfCFTA in the auto sector. We are similarly mobilizing investment in the area of pharmaceuticals, and we will soon make an announcement in this regard.
President Akufo-Addo urged countries yet to ratify the AfTA to do so as soon as possible.
We still don't have a totality of the countries of the continent having ratified the agreement. And I believe the numbers also who are actually ready for trading within the community is still relatively small. So those are issues of political will that have to be dealt with and must be dealt with. Because it's obvious, especially with what is going on in the world today, the critical importance of developing our own self-reliance and our capacity to produce and grow things for ourselves. And the market provides us the framework in which that can be done.
Ghana's Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kyerematen believes the AfCFTA presents a perfect opportunity for Africa to compete with the rest of the world.
My name is Asiedua Akumia. Ghanaian gospel recording artist C.C. Beju has been sharing his views on churches unearthing talents and supporting them in their career.
If you find yourself in a church where it's a very progressive place, you know that they can see that you have something going and then they can support it and push you. But naturally, human beings are such that they just want to, if you are actually very useful to them, they want you to stay like that.
Thank you.
It's a natural thing.
It's very difficult for them to let you go.
It's not just in church, but everywhere. You know, if you're useful to them, they want you to stay. Yeah. But if you are in a place where the place is very progressive, you know, the people can actually spot you. And I think we have a lot of churches that are doing that now.
Well, he also shared how Ghanaians are gradually getting to appreciate the kind of music he does.
Yeah, I think the issue has been, you know, knowing the channels to be able to plug in your music so that your music can actually go far. But we're getting there here. For some time, we're not really exposed to what should be done, the practical ways to be able to get your music out there. But now, you know, people are doing it. We are doing it professionally now. So we're getting there with the exposure, yes.
Okay. Now for our next story, Romanian director Cristian Mungiu enters the Cannes Film Festival competition for the 4th time with social drama RMN, which premiered on Saturday, May 21.
It stands a lot for what, I don't know, Europe and the world is today in the time of globalization, which is a territory where a lot of people came earlier or later and they have something to dispute. And they have something to handle. How are we going to coexist here? The forest stands for the subconscious. A lot of fears come from there, a lot of instincts. We don't know. We want to be rational beings, but you know, actually we are some animals secreting a lot of hormones and we respond to fear and anxiety all of a sudden. And in the film you need to find a way in which you to speak about rationally, rational, logically, logical, these impulses and the anxiety that we all feel today. How will you do this in cinema, avoiding to place this into dialogue?
Well, that's it for entertainment news. My name is Asiedua Akumia. Kenneth?
Thank you very much, Asiedua. International news is next. The outgoing president of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, has handed over power to the newly elected president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, earlier today. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud will now have to steer the horn of the African country in eradicating insecurity caused by the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. That's all for now, but before we go, a look again at our top stories. The Commission says it has no records in its archives of Sir John Owen plots of land in the Achimota Forest Reserve. National security begins anti-terrorism campaign as courts in the eastern region limit entry to chambers. And in business, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has announced an increase in monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 19%. And we took you to Somalia, where the outgoing president of that country, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, hands over power to newly elected president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Have a good night.